Alex had been warned 100 times never to cross the boundary. The Kalari Empire marked their ruins with glowing barriers and harsh decrees, and every human explorer knew the punishment for trespassing: swift death without trial. Yet here he was, standing at the threshold of history, with curiosity burning hotter than fear. The ruins lay sprawled across a barren plateau, their stone walls veined with faintly glowing runes that pulsed like the heartbeat of something alive. The air was dense with a metallic tang, every breath like swallowing sparks. Alex adjusted his pack, brushing dust from his jacket, and stepped forward. His boots echoed against cracked tiles as if he had entered a temple that still remembered prayers whispered centuries ago. "Just a quick look," he muttered to himself. "One scan, one photo, and I'm out." But the universe has never been kind to trespassers. A sharp hum cut through the silence. The glowing runes brightened, as though the ruins themselves had called for guardians. From the shadows, armored figures emerged, weapons raised, eyes burning with suspicion. Their movements were precise, their formation flawless. Alex froze mid-step, heart hammering in his chest. Before he could even raise his hands in surrender, a voice thundered from behind the soldiers. "Human!" The word carried both disgust and command. The soldiers parted instantly, their discipline absolute, revealing a woman who walked as though the ground bent to her will. She was unlike anything Alex had imagined. Tall, lithe, with skin that shimmered faintly like burnished gold, and eyes that shifted colors as if reflecting hidden storms. Her presence alone pressed against Alex's chest, forcing him to breathe shallowly. She wore a long, armored cloak that fluttered without wind, and every rune on her weapon pulsed in harmony with the ruins themselves. The commander. Alex knew, without question, he was standing before Sora, the iron flame of the Kalari, the woman whose name even human captains spoke with unease. Her reputation was as merciless as the void itself. She stopped only a few steps away from him, her gaze cutting through his soul. "You are trespassing in sacred territory. Do you understand the sentence for such a crime?" Alex swallowed hard. His throat was dry, his words caught between begging and logic. I meant no harm. I was only." Silence. The single word cracked like a whip. The soldiers raised their rifles in unison. Energy hummed at the edge of their barrels, ready to erase him in less than a heartbeat. Alex's stomach twisted. His hands trembled. He could already imagine his body crumbling to ash, scattered among the very ruins he had longed to study. But fear does strange things to a man. It scrambles the tongue, loosens words never meant to be spoken. Looking at her, standing tall and unyielding, Alex felt an odd flutter in his chest, part terror, part awe. Her eyes, in that moment, glowed with hues of violet and green, hypnotic in their shift. The thought slipped out before he could chain it. "Lovely." The sound of the word hung in the charged air like a fragile glass sphere. For a heartbeat, everything froze. The soldiers stiffened. Some gasped softly, others muttered in disbelief. No human had ever dared speak to their commander with such irreverence, such intimacy. A compliment? To the iron flame? It was madness. Silra's eyes narrowed, but not in the way Alex expected. Instead of immediate wrath, something unreadable flickered across her expression. Her lips parted slightly. The golden shimmer of her skin deepened, almost as though heat flushed beneath the surface. The great commander blushed. Alex blinked, certain he was hallucinating. This was the moment of his execution. Why was she not giving the order? Why did she suddenly look less like an untouchable icon of war and more like a woman caught off guard? Silra stepped closer, her shadow falling over him. The air grew heavier, charged with a strange energy. Her voice, low and measured, carried a sharp edge that failed to hide its tremor. "Say it again, human." Alex's heart nearly stopped. He looked into her kaleidoscopic eyes, searching for cruelty, for mockery, for the trap he surely was falling into. But he found none, only something unexpected, something dangerous. He drew in a shaky breath. Against all logic, he obeyed. "Lovely." The word seemed to ripple through the ruins themselves, echoing back in faint whispers from the glowing walls. The soldiers exchanged bewildered glances, uncertain whether to be outraged or terrified. And Silrut Kalari's iron flame, terror of trespassers, stood silent, her expression unreadable, but her eyes glowed brighter than before. Alex realized, with a cold shiver, that he had just crossed a boundary far greater than the ruins. The word still echoed in the chamber like a forbidden prayer. Alex felt the weight of 100 eyes on him, every soldier waiting for their commander's signal to strike. His knees wobbled, sweat dampened the back of his neck. He had just committed blasphemy against the most feared warrior of the Kalari Empire. Yet she hadn't killed him. Not yet. Silra's eyes, glowing with a kaleidoscopic shimmer, fixed on him like twin blades. Her soldiers remained frozen, their disciplined silence trembling at the edge of collapse. A human had just called their commander lovely. The universe itself felt unbalanced. Silra's lips parted. For a moment, Alex swore he saw the faintest trace of hesitation. Her jaw clenched, her hands curling into fists at her sides, as if she was fighting some invisible battle within herself. "Say it again," she whispered. The command was soft, but it struck him harder than a scream. Alex blinked. Surely, he had misheard. Surely, this was a cruel trick. His chest rose and fell with frantic breaths. I don't." Her voice snapped, sharper this time, breaking no room for doubt. "Say it again, human." The soldiers exchanged shocked glances, unsure if their ears deceived them. None dared speak. None dared move. Alex swallowed, his throat tight as rope. To disobey might mean instant execution. To obey, he didn't know what that meant. Yet something in her tone, something buried beneath the steel, urged him forward. Against every instinct of self-preservation, he forced the word past his trembling lips. "Lovely." Silra closed her eyes. A flush shimmered faintly across her golden skin, like sunlight reflecting on liquid metal. Her breath caught just once, but Alex heard it, sharpen the silence. For a heartbeat, she looked less like a commander and more like something else, someone else. A woman who hadn't expected to be seen, let alone admired. The tension fractured. Soldiers shifted uneasily, muttering under their breath. One finally dared to speak. "Commander, he insults you. Give the order, and we will." Silra's eyes snapped open, blazing with emerald fire. Silence. The soldier fell back immediately, bowing his head in shame. The chamber quieted once more, but the silence was no longer certain. It quivered, as if the entire garrison stood on a knife's edge, waiting for her verdict. Alex stood frozen, confused, his mind racing. Why isn't she killing me? Why did she blush? Silra stepped closer, boots striking the stone floor with deliberate weight. She circled him like a predator, each pass narrowing the distance. Alex's breath came shallow, his instincts screaming to flee, but his body refused to move. When she finally stopped, she was so close he could see the fine, glowing patterns etched into her armor. She tilted her head slightly, studying him as though he were not a prisoner but a puzzle. "You speak without thought," she said slowly, her voice lower now, more controlled. "Yet in your recklessness, you reveal what others hide. Do all humans insult with tenderness?" Alex's lips twitched into a nervous half-smile. It wasn't an insult. Her eyes narrowed, the colors shifting to deep violet. Then what was it? His throat tightened. There was no safe answer. Yet honesty was all he had left. It was the truth. The chamber seemed to inhale and hold its breath. Soldiers stiffened again, waiting for an explosion of rage. But none came. Silra's gaze lingered on him for what felt like an eternity. Then, to everyone's disbelief, the faintest smile tugged at the corner of her lips, a smile gone almost before it appeared. She turned away sharply, her cloak whipping behind her like a shadow. "Bind him. But do not harm him." Gasps rippled through the ranks. A trespasser should have been executed without question, yet their commander had spared him. Worse, she had blushed at his words. The soldiers obeyed nonetheless, approaching Alex cautiously, as though touching him might awaken some forbidden curse. His wrists were bound with glowing restraints, warm against his skin, and he was led away through the ruins' echoing corridors. As they walked, Alex dared a final glance over his shoulder. Silra still stood where he had left her, tall and silent, staring after him. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes glowed with colors he hadn't seen before, shades of rose and amber, hues that spoke of something dangerous, something tender. He didn't know what he had awakened in her. He only knew one thing for certain: the moment he had called her lovely, the universe had shifted. And there would be no turning back. The restraints glowed faintly around Alex's wrists, warm and humming with some alien energy. They weren't just metal, they pulsed like veins, as though alive. Every step the guards forced him to take echoed through the ruins, each sound a reminder that he should already be dead. He stole glances at the soldiers flanking him. Their faces were hard, disciplined, unreadable. Yet beneath their stoicism, he sensed unease. They didn't understand why their commander had spared him. Neither did he. The corridor they marched through was carved from stone that shimmered faintly with embedded runes. Ancient murals lined the walls, depicting figures with glowing eyes raising cities out of nothing, commanding stars, shaping planets. Alex's archaeologist instincts twitched with wonder. Every detail begged to be studied. But the restraints pulled him forward, away from questions, deeper into captivity. Finally, the soldiers shoved him into a chamber, Spartan but not cruel. Smooth walls, a single cot, faintly glowing lines on the floor. A cell, but one with light and air. The restraints dissolved as soon as he crossed the threshold, vanishing like mist. Alex rubbed his wrists, frowning. He had expected bruises, burns, some sign of punishment. Instead, there was nothing. Almost as if he hadn't been bound at all. The door sealed shut behind him with a quiet hum. Alone, Alex sank onto the cot, his heart still hammering. He should be ash on the ruins floor. Instead, he was alive, breathing, still replaying the impossible scene in his head. The most feared commander of the Kalari had flushed at a human word. "Lovely!" He groaned, burying his face in his hands. What the hell did I just do? The answer didn't come. Not until the door hissed open again. She entered. Silra filled the doorway with her presence. The soldiers outside stiffened to statues, offering sharp salutes as she stepped inside and sealed the chamber behind her. Alex rose awkwardly, unsure if standing was respect or defiance. "Commander," he stammered, voice dry. She crossed the room slowly, her cloak trailing across the floor. Her eyes, glowing faint shades of emerald and violet, never left his face. There was no blush this time, no visible crack in her armor. But there was curiosity, a quiet, simmering flame she didn't bother to hide. "You are not like others," she said at last, her tone calm, measured. "When most humans trespass, they beg. They cry. They offer lies to save themselves." Alex licked his lips nervously. "And me?" "You speak nonsense," she replied flatly. "You look at me, your captor, and call me lovely." The last word rolled off her tongue with an almost alien unfamiliarity, as if testing how it tasted. Heat rushed to Alex's cheeks. "It slipped out," he admitted, hands tightening into fists at his sides. "I was scared. My brain wasn't working right." Her head tilted slightly, golden strands of hair catching the light. Fear makes most creatures show their truest selves. Perhaps it was not nonsense at all. Alex blinked, stunned by the softness threading through her words. He had expected interrogation, maybe even torture. Instead, it felt more like conversation. Silra stepped closer. He could see the faint glow along the runes etched into her armor, the way her eyes shifted as though reflecting emotions she refused to voice. "You meant no harm to these ruins?" "No," Alex said quickly. "I'm a researcher. I wanted to learn, not destroy. I crossed the boundary because," he hesitated, then sighed. "Because I couldn't resist knowing what was hidden. Knowledge drives us. Sometimes too far." Her gaze lingered on him, unblinking, searching. He felt like a specimen under a microscope. But then, after a long silence, she turned away. "You are reckless," she said. "But honest." She moved to the door, her cloak whispering across the floor. Before leaving, she paused, her voice quiet but deliberate. "You live because I choose it. Do not mistake this for weakness, human. The Council will not understand. Perhaps I do not, either." The door hissed open, bathing her in pale light. She stepped out, leaving him alone once more. But Alex didn't sink into despair this time. He stared at the sealed door, his pulse racing. He wasn't sure what he had awakened in her. Respect? Curiosity? Something more dangerous? Captive or guest, prisoner or puzzle, he no longer knew what he was. Only one thing was clear: Silra, the iron flame of the Kalari, had chosen him to live. And that choice would change everything. Days bled into weeks. Alex had expected imprisonment, interrogation, maybe even a swift execution once the Council discovered him. Instead, his cell became something stranger, a place of waiting, of watching, of visits. Almost every day, Silra appeared. Sometimes she came alone, sometimes with guards, but always with the same intensity in her eyes. She never explained why she spared him. She never apologized for the chains. But she asked questions. Endless questions. At first, they were simple, clipped, formal. What is the human lifespan? What do your people value most? Why do you seek ruins that are not your own? Alex answered cautiously at first, every word measured, knowing a wrong response might condemn him. But over time, something shifted. The more he spoke, the more her expression softened, not much, but enough to notice. She began to linger. When he told her about Earth's oceans, her head tilted slightly, as though she tried to imagine waves crashing on sand. When he spoke of music, she asked him to hum a tune. Nervously, Alex whistled an old melody, and for the first time, he swore he saw her lips twitch in something dangerously close to amusement. One evening, she surprised him with her own questions, not about humans, but about himself. Why risk death for knowledge? He hesitated, then admitted, because curiosity is worth more than fear. At least, to me. Her eyes glowed faint violet, reflecting thought. A reckless philosophy. But, perhaps not unwise. The days stretched longer. Soldiers continued to treat him as a prisoner, but the atmosphere changed. They no longer looked at him as a trespasser awaiting death, but as something else. A curiosity. A symbol. And Silra herself seemed caught between roles. One evening, she entered without her cloak. Alex almost didn't recognize her at first. Without the heavy fabric, she looked less like a commander carved of stone and more like a woman. The golden shimmer of her skin was softer in the chamber light, her eyes shifting calmly through shades of emerald. "You look different," Alex said before he could stop himself. Her gaze sharpened. Different? He flushed. Less terrifying. He laughed nervously. Still terrifying, don't get me wrong. Just human, almost. Her expression flickered. She studied him for a long moment before turning away, but he caught it, the faintest hint of color beneath her golden skin, the same blush he had seen that first day. Later, she brought him to the ruins themselves, not as a free man, but not as a bound one either. The guards watched carefully, but she allowed him to walk beside her. "These places," she explained, running her fingers across ancient carvings, "are memories. My people believe the stones remember. They warn us. Protect us from repeating failures." Alex bent down, brushing dust from a rune. "On Earth, we dig up ruins for the same reason. To learn. To understand who we were, and who we might become." Her eyes flicked to him, unreadable. "And if what you learn frightens you?" He smiled faintly. "Then it's worth learning even more." For a moment, silence stretched between them, heavy but not hostile. Then, softly, she said, "You are strange, human." Strange, but not unpleasant. Alex's chest tightened. For weeks, he had been walking a knife's edge, never knowing if each day would be his last. Yet now, for the first time, he felt something different. A bridge forming. Fragile, dangerous, but real. That night, back in his chamber, he lay awake staring at the ceiling. He thought of her shifting eyes, of the rare softness in her voice. He thought of how her presence filled the room, how the word he had once spoken in fear now lingered in his mind like truth. "Lovely." He whispered it into the darkness, and though no one heard, the sound still made his pulse quicken. Something was changing. Between him and Sora. Between two civilizations. And though he could not name it yet, Alex knew this was only the beginning. The summons came at dawn. Two guards entered Alex's chamber, their armor gleaming with the cold light of the twin suns. They did not speak, only gestured for him to rise. The silence was heavier than chains. Silra appeared moments later. Unlike the soldiers, she did not avoid his gaze. Her voice was calm, but the edge beneath it was unmistakable. "The High Council has heard of you. They demand your presence. You will speak for yourself." Alex's stomach tightened. "And if I fail?" Her eyes shifted briefly to a crimson shade. then I will have no power to protect you. The walk to the council chamber was long, each step echoing in the vast corridors carved from obsidian stone. Murals lined the walls, depicting centuries of Kalari triumphs, wars fought, victories won. To Alex, it felt like walking through the throat of a beast ready to devour him. At the great doors, the guards stopped. Silra did not. She placed a hand on the cold surface, whispered an old phrase, and the doors rumbled open. The chamber inside was immense, its ceiling vanishing into shadows. At its center, a ring of towering figures waited, the High Council. Their robes shimmered with threads of silver and emerald, their eyes burning with authority. One elder spoke first, her voice sharp. A human, trespassing in our sacred ruins, living under the roof of our commander? This cannot be ignored. Another's voice followed, lower, venomous. He should have been executed the moment he was discovered. Mercy breeds weakness. The words struck Alex like blows. He stood stiff, fighting to keep his expression calm. Then, unexpectedly, Silra stepped forward. With respect, she said, her voice firm but controlled, I chose not to end him. This human is not an invader. He is different. The counselors murmured, their glowing eyes narrowing. One turned directly to Alex. Then speak, trespasser. Why should we allow you to live? Why did you come to our ruins? Alex swallowed hard. This was it, the moment his fate hinged on. He forced his voice steady. I came because I wanted to learn. Humans explore ruins to understand the past, so we don't repeat mistakes. I meant no insult, no theft. Only curiosity. The chamber rippled with whispers, half disbelief, half scorn. One counselor sneered. Curiosity? That is not enough. Your kind are expansionists. You spread, consume, corrupt. Why should we believe you? Alex's pulse hammered in his throat. He wanted to shrink under their gaze, but then he caught Silra's eyes. She wasn't pleading, wasn't begging him to say the right thing. She was trusting him. He took a breath. Because I'm standing here unarmed, surrounded by people who could kill me in a heartbeat. If I came here as a conqueror, I would not be alive to speak. The truth is simple, I am just one man who made a mistake. And if you end me, you will only silence curiosity, not conquest. For a long moment, the chamber was silent. Then the eldest counselor leaned forward, her eyes dimming to a contemplative gray. Commander Silra. You defend this human fiercely. Why? Silra's posture was unwavering. Because he has shown honesty in a place where lies would serve him better. Because he does not cower, yet does not threaten. And because, her eyes flicked toward Alex, he has reminded me that even we, the Kalari, may still learn something new. Gasps rippled across the chamber. To admit weakness, even in learning, was nearly heresy for a commander. Yet Silra stood unmoving, her gaze steady. The counselors conferred in low, harsh tones, their voices echoing like the grinding of stone. Finally, the eldest spoke again. Very well. The human shall not be executed, yet. He will remain under observation. But hear this, Silra, should he falter, should his presence bring even the shadow of danger, the blame will fall upon you. Silra bowed her head once. I accept. Alex exhaled slowly, realizing only now how tightly his fists had clenched. He had survived, for now. But the weight of their decision pressed heavily on his shoulders. As the guards led him from the chamber, Silra walked beside him, her voice barely a whisper. You spoke well, human. But the council is not convinced. We walk a fragile path. Alex glanced at her, searching for some sign of regret in her expression. Instead, he saw only resolve. "Then I'll make sure it's worth the risk," he said softly. For the first time since his capture, she didn't hide her reaction. Her lips curved, not quite a smile, but close enough to set his heart racing. The council's decree spread like wildfire through the Kalari city. Whispers followed Alex wherever he went. Some soldiers spat as he passed, their glowing eyes flashing with contempt. Others only stared, as though trying to unravel the mystery of why their commander had risked everything for a human. To most, he was not a guest. Not even a prisoner. He was a test, an experiment that could fracture their people. Silra knew it too. She kept him close, rarely allowing him beyond the watchful eyes of her guard. Yet Alex could sense the tension even in her. She had placed her honor, perhaps even her life, on the line. If he faltered, she would fall with him. One evening, they stood on a balcony overlooking the alien city. Towers of black crystal rose into the sky, their surfaces glowing with faint streams of energy, like veins of light pulsing through a living body. Below, markets buzzed with Kalari citizens, but Alex felt no welcome in their eyes. "They hate me," he muttered. "They fear you," Silra corrected, her gaze fixed on the city. "There is a difference. Hatred fades. Fear lingers. Both can kill." Her words chilled him, but she did not look away. Her eyes had shifted to a stormy blue, restless and conflicted. "Then why protect me at all?" Alex asked quietly. For a moment, she was silent. Then she turned, her expression unreadable. "Because if you are what you claim to be, then you might change everything." The true test came sooner than Alex expected. Weeks later, the council summoned them again. This time, the chamber was filled not only with elders, but also military generals, scholars, and emissaries from distant provinces. The atmosphere was heavier, thicker, every voice edged with suspicion. An elder spoke sharply. "Reports from our scouts speak of human ships nearing our borders. Explorers, they call themselves. But is it exploration, or the beginning of invasion?" Another added, "We tolerate this one man, but what of the hundreds, the thousands who will follow? Shall we call them curious too?" The chamber erupted with voices, accusations, warnings, demands. Alex's chest tightened. This was no longer about him as an individual. It was about his entire species. Silra's voice cut through the chaos. "You speak as though fear is wisdom. But fear blinds you. This human is proof that not all who wander into our lands come with blades drawn." A general barked in reply. "One man is not proof of anything." Alex stepped forward before Silra could answer. His heart pounded, but his voice carried. "Then let me be proof." Every eye in the chamber burned into him. He swallowed hard, forcing himself to go on. "I cannot speak for every human. I cannot promise that all who come will be kind or peaceful. But I can promise this: if you kill those who come without understanding them, you will create the very enemy you fear." The chamber quieted. Even the generals leaned closer. He drew a breath, his throat dry. "My people and yours are not so different. We dig through ruins to learn. We build cities to thrive. We fear the unknown, and sometimes, we lash out because of that fear. But fear does not have to rule us. Curiosity can. Respect can. You don't need to trust my entire species. Just trust that one mistake, my mistake, led not to war, but to this." He gestured between himself and Silra. Silra stood tall beside him, her hand resting on the hilt of her blade, not in threat, but in silent solidarity. The counselors whispered fiercely among themselves. Some voices carried anger, others hesitation. Finally, the eldest raised her hand. This moment, this alliance of accident, may yet prove useful. We will not commit to war. Not yet. Instead, we will watch. We will wait. And we will see if this human's words carry weight. Relief washed over Alex like a tide. He wasn't sure if he had just saved himself or doomed them all to endless scrutiny, but at least for now, the fragile thread of peace held. As they left the chamber, Alex's knees nearly buckled from exhaustion. Silra caught his arm, steadying him. Her touch lingered longer than necessary. "You spoke like a warrior," she said softly. "I felt like a child," Alex admitted. Her lips curved faintly, that almost smile he had seen before. Perhaps. But sometimes, it is the child who reminds the elder how to see the world. For the first time, Alex believed it. And for the first time, Silra allowed herself to believe it too. The night after the council's decision was the quietest Alex had known since arriving in the Kalari city. No guards pacing outside his chamber, no whispers of suspicion floating through the halls. For the first time, there was stillness. He lay awake, staring at the alien ceiling above, thoughts heavy in his mind. He had survived execution. He had spoken for his people. But survival was not peace, and words alone could not erase centuries of Kalari fear. A soft knock broke the silence. The door slid open, and Silra stepped inside. She wore no armor, no cloak, no commander's insignia. Just a simple robe of dark fabric that shimmered faintly in the starlight spilling through the window. Alex sat up quickly. "Silra? Is something wrong?" Her glowing eyes shifted between shades, uncertain, hesitant, softer than he had ever seen. She closed the door behind her. "No. Nothing is wrong. But everything is different." She crossed the room, her footsteps soundless. For the first time, she did not carry her blade. She stopped just before him, close enough for him to see the faint glow pulsing beneath her skin, like veins of liquid light. "You have changed things, human," she said, voice low. "The council listens now, where before they would have crushed without pause. My people will not admit it, but you have planted doubt in their fear. You did this, with nothing but words." Alex gave a tired smile. "I was terrified the whole time. Honestly, I don't even know how I got through it." Silra tilted her head, studying him. "Perhaps that is the strength. To be afraid, yet speak anyway." The silence that followed was different this time. Not heavy, not hostile. Gentle. Almost fragile. Alex hesitated, then asked, "And you? What do you think of me now?" Her eyes glowed brighter, shifting from blue to violet, then finally settling into a soft golden hue. She leaned closer, her face inches from his, her voice a whisper. "I think that first word you spoke was not a mistake." Alex froze, his heart hammering. "Lovely?" The blush returned, faint but undeniable, coloring her golden skin. She lowered her gaze for the briefest moment, then looked straight into his eyes. "Say it again, human." He swallowed hard, breath catching in his chest. Slowly, deliberately, he whispered, "Lovely." The word hung in the air like a spark, delicate and dangerous. Silra closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, they shone like molten gold. "For so long, I have been seen only as commander. As strength. As fear. But when you spoke that word, I was reminded that I am also a woman." Her confession struck him deeper than any weapon. In that moment, Alex saw not the terrifying alien warrior, not the unyielding leader, but someone vulnerable, someone who longed to be seen. He reached out, hesitantly, as though touching her might break the fragile moment. His hand hovered near hers, waiting. She did not pull away. Instead, her fingers brushed his, and the faint glow of her skin warmed his touch. Silra's voice trembled, the smallest crack in her otherwise unshakable tone. "If we allow this connection, it will not be easy. My people will resist. Your people will not understand." Alex smiled softly. "Maybe not. But every bridge starts with one step. Maybe, with one word. She studied him for a long time, then finally allowed herself something she had denied for weeks, a true smile. It was faint, restrained, but real, and it made her look more human than ever. Lovely, she whispered back, as though testing the word herself. And with that single word, the distance between them collapsed. Days later, stories spread across the city. The human had not only survived, but had spoken so fiercely that even the High Council bent. Whispers turned from hatred to curiosity, from fear to speculation. But to Alex, none of that mattered as much as the moment that night. Because in the quiet, with only the stars as witnesses, an alien commander and a human trespasser had spoken a truth that bound them tighter than any treaty could. It had begun with a mistake. And ended with the word that was never a mistake at all. Lovely.